out for patients like Dorothy Potter, who was treated on the wards where saline was contaminated. What were the nurses like with you on the wards?
Absolutely wonderful, night and day.
So how do you feel about all this?
I feel very disappointed for everybody, really.
Forensic work is still being carried out at Rebecca Layton's home, while detectives try and find out exactly how these 3 patients died. And this forensic work is expected to go on for quite a while yet. We've still got the tight security here. Every car is checked in and out of the hospital, and we're still waiting for these post-mortem examination results. Hopefully, police believe they could shed some light on what happened to these 3 patients here.
Right, let's update you on the headlines. David Cameron has admitted that with hindsight, he wouldn't have hired the former News of the World editor Andy Coulson. He's told MPs that he would make a profound apology if it was proved that his former head of communications had known about phone hacking.
A nurse has been arrested on suspicion of murder following the deaths of 3 hospital patients in Stockport. 27-year-old Rebecca Layton from the Heverley area works at Stepping Hill Hospital.
And on the eve of a crucial Eurozone summit in Brussels, the head of the European Commission has warned that unless a solution can be found to the Greek debt crisis, the negative effects will be felt across Europe and beyond.
And in sport, England captain Andrew Strauss says the Test series against India, which starts tomorrow at Lord's, is bigger than the Ashes. England will become the top-ranked team in the world if they win the series by 2 matches. Formula One boss Bernie Ecclestone says he'll be cleared of any wrongdoing after being named by German prosecutors as allegedly having paid millions of pounds in bribes to a former banking executive. And Norway's Edvard Boasson Hagen won today's stage of the Tour de France in northern Italy. Thomas Voeckler retains the leader's yellow jersey. His lead has been reduced after he took a detour on the final descent. More on those stories in half an hour. See you then.
Thank you, Francis. See you later. The President of the European Commission has warned that history will judge Europe's leaders harshly if they fail to outline a clear solution to the financial crisis. He was speaking in Brussels on the eve of a summit of Eurozone leaders to discuss a second bailout for Greece's debt-ridden economy. Well, I'm joined now by Robert Olds, who is director of the Bruges Group, an independent think tank opposed to closer European integration. Thanks very much for coming in to talk to us. So they're looking at more cash for Greece. Presumably that's something you don't think should be happening.
No, really, we shouldn't be just throwing money at the problem of the Greek economy. The problem is the euro and their membership. They can't hold on to their euro membership, competing in a currency union with countries like Germany and the Netherlands. Really, the answer should be that they should come out of the euro. That would be the way to reignite growth in their economy if they were to have their own currency back, which they could devalue. That way they could get their economy moving again and then deal with the debt.
On the flip side of that, though, it would send out a message that membership of the euro is not forever, and the damage that that would cause to the currency could be immense, couldn't it? And then, of course, the knock-on effect, not just to countries within the Eurozone, but to countries like us who trade with the Eurozone.
Well, many people are beginning to realise that the euro wasn't the right step that was taken all those years ago. Countries such as Greece, Italy, Ireland, Portugal and Spain, the euro doesn't work for them. You can't really compete with Germany in the currency union. So countries across Europe really should go back to their own currencies. That would be the best way forward.
It's not as simple as that, though, is it? I mean, it's not a case of just saying, OK, well, you know, this little experiment hasn't worked, we'll just duck out and everyone else carries on as they are. It would be chaotic on the markets, wouldn't it? Well,
the alternative is for more money to be thrown at Greece. Greece has debts of 172% of their GDP. Greece is technically bankrupt, really, so they're just putting off the evil day then there would be a default from Greece and the day that they would be coming out of the euro and going back to the drachma. Really, so it's better that this is a properly managed process where all sides recognise the problems that are being faced and take a way forward from there, rather than just leaving it to a crash several years down the line.
So what scenario then would you like to see unfolding? You'd like to see Greece going out in a managed exit, and who else? I mean, what would remain as the core Euro countries if you had your way?
Well, the core Euro countries would be, say, Greece, not Greece, no, Germany, the Netherlands and Finland, which have high budget surpluses. They're really, the Euro's working for them, it's helping their economies. But of course, in those countries, the populations are becoming deeply against the bailouts, particularly in Finland, where a party was elected purely to stop the bailouts. They received 25% of the votes, came from nowhere and got many of their MPs now elected into Finland, the True Finns party.
It's not going to happen though, is it? I mean, obviously, you know, it's an economic project and a political project, and it's clear that France and Germany are going to do what they can to keep this going.
Well, it's primarily a political project which is creating economic problems, and really at some point the German population will say enough is enough. We don't want our money going to fund the bailouts in these countries that have been profligate and wasted taxpayers' money.
Robert Olds, thank you.
Thanks.
The United Nations says famine will spread across Somalia within 2 months unless the international community sends more aid to the region. Famine has already been declared in 2 areas of southern Somalia which have been ravaged by conflict, and the worst drought in East Africa for more than half a century. Our Africa correspondent Andrew Harding has sent this report.
Now it's official. Somalia is sinking into famine. It's the first time that compelling word has been deployed in almost 20 years. The United Nations is hoping it will jolt the world into action as thousands of Somalis continue to flee a lethal combination of drought, conflict and poverty.
Since I was here in 1992, and when I look around and I see yet again, and these are very resilient people.
A substantial aid operation is already underway, supplies arriving in neighbouring Kenya. But the UN is asking for an extra £185 million immediately. The international response has been mixed. Britain has given £23 million to Somalia this year, the United States barely half that, while Germany and France on £3 and £1.6 million are among those accused of ignoring the alarm bells.
I think the contributions from other countries has been, in some cases, derisory and overall dangerously inadequate. Britain is setting a good lead, and we expect others to contribute. There are signs today that others are beginning to put their shoulder to the wheel, but we need that to happen rapidly and vigorously.
But money is not the only problem here. The famine has taken hold in areas controlled or influenced by a militant Islamist group, Al-Shabaab. They've made it too dangerous for foreign aid groups to operate directly. Now, they say, a ban has been lifted, but the politics are complicated and aid simply isn't getting to the right people fast enough. And so the familiar images of hunger and helplessness and the predictable scramble for money and access as famine bites into Somalia. Andrew Harding, BBC News, Johannesburg.
Well, joining me here in the studio is Dr. Samson Agbo, one of the UK's leading charities specialising in international health, Merlin. And thank you so much for coming in. The need couldn't be greater. You have people there on the ground. Just how dire is the situation?
The recent reports we have from the Famine Early Warning System and Network, and also the Food Security Analysis Unit, show clearly there is increasing risks. We have a critical period between now and the next 2 months that if no action is taken, we'll have about 3.7 million people really most vulnerable in terms of food security and nutritional needs.
It is a very, very difficult environment, Somalia, to actually work in with the conflict in terms of how people from your organisation are operating. What are the fundamental difficulties?
Well, Merlin has been in Somalia since 2004, but basically the difficulties are the insecurity in terms of the Al-Shabaab faction and the non-agreement with the interim government, and therefore logistics in terms of access, in terms of getting to those vulnerable displaced populations is a challenge.
Which makes it a very complicated situation and problem to actually combat. We heard there in our piece, of course, funding, money is a critical issue, and we saw in our graphic with the Americans so far donating half of what the UK has. They have concerns that actually, if there is money sent, perhaps some of it will actually go to Islamists. I mean, how legitimate a concern is that?
Well, I don't think that is an issue, because we have neutral, trusted partners like Merlin, UNICEF, World Food Programme, that is already, and a lot of other international NGOs that have been working and are working on the ground. And I think there's a mechanism within both the UN system and also in the coordination mechanism in terms of cluster approach that can make sure that resources that are provided are used not only transparently, but also for the purpose for which they are meant for.
You spoke a moment ago about the window of opportunity that exists, a couple of months. In terms of what is needed, how much money are you actually talking about? What is required to actually avert the really dire predictions?
Our initial estimates were over £80 million, but I think given the reports now we're getting increasing malnutrition rates and also the food insecurity, much more is required, and that's double the amount is required.
And that's just Somalia, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just Somalia.
I mean, we know that this is a problem not just in Somalia.
Because we're looking at about 3.7 million people. And that kind of size of population becomes not only a risk in terms of outbreak of diseases, in terms of other issues of food security.
If there are question marks about the international response, are there question marks also on the aid agencies themselves of how a situation like this has effectively crept up on them?
Well, in truth, we've always had the early warning system in place. But again, we depend on the large, benevolent, developed economies to really invest and provide the resources. Once the resources are not there, we knew that this was coming. We'd raised the alarm, but it was like not really an issue to address. And now it's caught up with us, and so we have to deal with it. And I think this timely investment, which is very critical between now and the next 2 months, and we have to carry on till December, when we hopefully can be able to revert, mitigate some of these issues of outbreaks and deaths that will occur from children and pregnant women.
Well, thanks for coming in to speak to us. That was Dr. Samson Agbo from Merlin. And if you would like to make a donation to the Disasters Emergency Committee appeal for East Africa, there are a number of ways you can actually do it. You can phone the DEC on their special donations hotline. The number is there, 0370 60 60 900. You can also visit their website. You go to dec.org.uk.
Now it's just approaching 8:30. Let's join John Hammond for the weather. John.
Hello there. It's been another rather cloudy and in places very showery day. The odd report of a tornado in 1 or 2 places. The trend through this evening will be for those showers to fade away, but 1 or 2 will linger well on into the night, particularly across parts of northern England and down towards the southeast as well. But generally, most places will become dry, if rather cloudy. Temperatures, though, despite the cloud cover, will fall quite low, and in some places they'll get down into single figures. So a cool old night out there, typically 10 to 12 degrees by dawn. So Thursday dawns quite fresh and quite cloudy in some places, already 1 or 2 showers around. Some sunshine will develop, and the best of that will be across the more western areas, parts of southwest England, West Wales, Northern Ireland. Elsewhere there will be some showers developing, and again 1 or 2 could be quite heavy, particularly across the more southern and eastern areas of England by the afternoon. The risk of thunder. Temperatures high teens, low 20s. I'm hopeful that as we end the week, most places will become dry with just a few showers, particularly across the southeast.
Hello, you're watching BBC News with Matthew Amerly-Waller and Joanna Gosling.
Well, it is 8:30. Let's have a summary of our main stories. David Cameron has admitted that with hindsight he wouldn't have hired the former News of the World editor Andy Coulson. He told MPs he would make a profound apology if it was proved that his former head of communications had lied about phone hacking. But the Labour leader Ed Miliband accused Mr Cameron of a deliberate attempt to hide from the facts.
News Corporation has announced it is to stop paying the legal fees for the former News of the World private investigator Glenn Mulcair with immediate effect. News International has also authorised the law firm Harbottle & Lewis to answer questions from the Metropolitan Police relating to the phone hacking scandal.
Meanwhile, the Scotland Yard team investigating the phone hacking scandal has been boosted from 45 to 60 officers due to a significant increase in the workload. The Home Affairs Committee has accused the Metropolitan Police of a catalogue of failures in its initial inquiry.
Police investigating the deaths of 3 patients at a hospital in Stockport have arrested a nurse on suspicion of murder.